The glass shattered first. Then the screams, then the sirens, then the fire. August 1st, 1943. Harlem was burning. 10,000 people in the streets. Buildings ablaze. Blood on the pavement. The NYPD had lost control an hour ago, and in City Hall, Mayor LaGuardia was on the phone with the National Guard, ordering tanks to roll into Harlem. "We need boots on the ground in 20 minutes, the mayor said, his voice tight. "Authorization for lethal force if necessary. This ends tonight." What the mayor didn't know was that across town, in a smoke-filled office on 135th Street, Bumpy Johnson was about to do something that would change New York City history. He was about to stop a war with a single phone call. But first, he had to stop his own people from destroying themselves. To understand what happened on August 1st, 1943, you need to understand what Harlem was living through. World War II. Black men were being drafted to fight for American freedom overseas, while being denied that same freedom at home. Segregated military units. Discriminatory treatment. Second-class soldiers fighting a first-class war. And when they came home on leave, wearing their uniforms with pride, they were still called boy by white cops, still denied service at white restaurants, still treated like they didn't belong in their own country. Private Robert Bandy knew this better than most. 26 years old, U.S. Army, home on leave from Europe where he'd spent the last year fighting fascism. August 1st, 7:30 p.m. Bandy was standing in the lobby of the Braddock Hotel on 126th Street. He heard a commotion. A white police officer, James Collins, was arresting a black woman named Margie Polite. The charge? Disorderly conduct. Her crime? She'd argued with the hotel manager about being overcharged for her room. Officer Collins was rough, grabbed Margie by the arm, twisted it behind her back. She cried out in pain. Robert Bandy, who'd spent the last year fighting for freedom and democracy, couldn't watch a woman being brutalized by the people sworn to protect her. He stepped forward. "Sir, you're hurting her." Officer Collins turned, saw the uniform, didn't care. "Mind your business, boy." "I'm not a boy. I'm a soldier." What happened next, witnesses gave different accounts, but the result was the same. Officer Collins drew his weapon and shot Robert Bandy in the shoulder. A soldier, in uniform, in a hotel lobby, in front of dozens of witnesses. Robert collapsed, blood spreading across his army jacket. Collins radioed for backup, claimed Bandy had attacked him. A lie. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. Within 20 minutes, the word spread through Harlem like wildfire. They shot a soldier. They shot one of our boys. By 8:00 p.m., a crowd had gathered outside the Braddock Hotel. 50 people, then 100, then 500. By 9:00 p.m., the crowd was a mob, and the mob was moving. What started at the Braddock Hotel spread through Harlem like a wave. Years of rage, years of humiliation, years of watching their sons go to war for a country that treated them like enemies. All of it erupted at once. Store windows shattered, not black-owned businesses. Those were left untouched. But white-owned stores, the ones that charged Harlem residents double what they charged white customers, the ones that wouldn't hire black workers, those burned. Police cars were overturned. Officers who ventured into the streets were pelted with bricks, bottles, anything people could throw. The NYPD tried to form lines, push the crowds back, but they were outnumbered 50-1. By 10:00 p.m., Police Commissioner Louis Valentine called Mayor LaGuardia. "We've lost control, sir." LaGuardia sat in his office, staring at reports coming in, fires spreading, injuries mounting, property damage in the hundreds of thousands. He had a choice: send in reinforcements with orders to crack skulls, or call the National Guard. Either way, people were going to die. He chose the Guard, gave them 90 minutes to mobilize. Tanks, soldiers, riot gear, orders to restore order by any means necessary. But LaGuardia didn't understand something fundamental about what was happening in Harlem that night. This wasn't a riot because people were criminals. This was a riot because people were tired. Tired of being shot. Tired of being ignored. Tired of watching their sons go to war for a country that treated them like the enemy. And into this chaos walked Bumpy Johnson. 11:15 p.m. Bumpy stepped out of Small's Paradise, his headquarters on 135th Street. The streets were full of smoke, fire, noise, people running in every direction, sirens wailing. This wasn't organized. This was pain expressing itself the only way it knew how. His lieutenants surrounded him. "Boss, we need to get you out of here. The guard's coming." Bumpy looked at the burning streets, looked at his people destroying their own neighborhood, looked at the police in riot gear, waiting for an excuse to shoot. He made a decision. "Get me a bullhorn." "What?" "Get me a bullhorn and a car." 5 minutes later, Bumpy Johnson was standing on the hood of a Cadillac in the middle of 125th Street and Lenox Avenue. The heart of Harlem. The epicenter of the chaos. His driver leaned on the horn. Long, sustained blast. People turned, saw who it was, and slowly the noise started to die down. Bumpy raised the bullhorn. "Listen to me." His voice cut through everything, strong, calm, commanding. The crowd quieted, not completely. Fires were still burning, glass was still breaking in the distance. But the people near him stopped, turned, listened. "I know why you're angry. I'm angry too." Heads nodded. People moved closer. "They shot Robert Bandy for doing what any man would do, protecting a woman. And that cop will probably get a medal while Robert's in the hospital fighting for his life. I know. I know." Bumpy paused. Let that sink in. "But look around you. Look at what you're burning. Whose stores are these? Whose homes? Yours." He pointed down the street at a storefront engulfed in flames. "You're burning your neighborhood, and tomorrow morning, when the smoke clears, who's going to pay to rebuild? Not the NYPD, not City Hall. You." Voices in the crowd. "They deserve it. They shot one of us." Bumpy nodded. "You're right. They do deserve it. But here's what they want." He gestured toward the police line 3 blocks away. Officers in riot gear, waiting. "They want you to burn your own neighborhood so tomorrow they can roll tanks down these streets and say, 'See, they're animals. They need to be controlled.' They want you to give them an excuse." He pointed at the police line. "You see those cops? They're waiting for you to throw one more brick. Fire one more store. Because when you do, they get to shoot. And when the bodies pile up, they'll blame you. Not the cop who shot Robert, you." The crowd was listening now, really listening. "So here's what we're going to do. You're going to go home. You're going to check on your families. You're going to let me handle this." Someone shouted, "What are you going to do?" Bumpy smiled, cold, dangerous. "I'm going to call the mayor, and I'm going to tell him that if those cops who caused this aren't gone by tomorrow, next time I won't stop the riot. I'll lead it." 11:52 p.m. The streets were clearing, not because the police ordered it, because Bumpy Johnson did. People were going home. Fires were being put out, not by firefighters, by residents, by the same people who'd started them an hour earlier. By the time the National Guard rolled into Harlem at midnight, there was nothing to suppress. The riot was over. The Guard commander radioed Mayor LaGuardia. "Sir, the situation is contained. We don't understand it, but the streets are empty." LaGuardia sat in his office, confused. He'd seen the reports. 10,000 people rioting. How did it just stop? His phone rang. "Mayor, you have a call. Says his name is Bumpy Johnson." LaGuardia hesitated. He knew the name. Every politician in New York knew the name. But Bumpy Johnson didn't call mayors. Mayors pretended men like Bumpy didn't exist. Put him through. Bumpy's voice came through the line, calm, almost friendly. Mr. Mayor, this is Bumpy Johnson. We haven't been formally introduced, but I think you know who I am. Mr. Johnson, I'm aware of your reputation. Good. Then you know I just did your job for you. I stopped a riot your police couldn't handle. 10,000 people were in those streets and I sent them home. You're welcome. LaGuardia bristled. I don't recall asking for your help. You didn't have to. See, unlike you, I actually live in Harlem. These are my people, and I'm not going to let them destroy themselves because your cops don't know how to act civilized. Officer Collins has been suspended pending investigation. Suspended? Bumpy's voice went cold. That's not going to cut it. Excuse me? Here's what's going to happen, Mr. Mayor. Officer Collins, gone, not suspended, fired. And every other officer in that precinct who's beaten a black citizen without cause. I have names. 8 of them. They're gone, too. You can't demand. I'm not demanding. I'm informing. Because here's the deal. I stopped this riot. But next time some cop puts his hands on one of my people, I won't stop it. I'll arm it. Silence on the line. You think tonight was bad. Tonight was me showing restraint. You want peace in Harlem? You want your police to be able to patrol without getting bricks thrown at them? Then you clean house. You get rid of the cops who think their badge gives them the right to beat black people. LaGuardia stared at the phone. This was extortion. This was a gangster threatening the mayor of New York City. But it was also the truth. You do that, Bumpy continued, and I guarantee you won't have another riot. You don't? Then next time I won't make a phone call. I'll make a statement, and you'll have a war on your hands. I could have you arrested for threatening a public official. Bumpy laughed, not mocking, just tired. Mr. Mayor, I'm offering you a solution. You want to arrest me? Go ahead. But when the next riot happens, and there will be a next riot if nothing changes, you won't have anyone to call. You'll just have the National Guard shooting black folks in the streets, and that blood will be on your hands. LaGuardia sat in his office, the phone pressed to his ear. He knew Bumpy was right. Collins was dirty. Half the Harlem precinct was corrupt. But firing cops, especially white cops, at the demand of a black gangster? That would be political suicide. But so would another riot. I'll look into it. You got 72 hours, Mr. Mayor. After that, I can't control what happens. The line went dead. August 4th, 1935. 3 days later. The New York Times ran a small story on page 7. 8 NYPD officers dismissed following internal review. No details. No names. Just gone. Officer James Collins was fired and charged with assault. The charges were later dropped, but he never wore a badge again. The people of Harlem knew who was responsible, not the mayor, not the NYPD commissioner. Bumpy Johnson. He'd done what the police couldn't, what the politicians wouldn't. He'd stopped a war, not with violence, with intelligence, with strategy, with the one thing that terrified power more than anything else. Consequences. Mayor LaGuardia never publicly acknowledged the phone call, but for the rest of his term, he was careful about Harlem, careful about police conduct, because he understood something that night. Bumpy Johnson had more power in those streets than any politician, and that power didn't come from a badge or an office. It came from respect, from loyalty, from being the one person who stood between the community and the system, trying to crush it. Years later, in 1965, when Malcolm X was assassinated, the NYPD didn't call the mayor to keep the peace in Harlem. They called Bumpy Johnson, because they knew who really ran those streets. Bumpy Johnson died in 1968. At his funeral, thousands lined the streets, not because he was a gangster, because he was a protector. A man who understood that sometimes the only way to stop violence is to have the courage to stand in the middle of it and say enough. August 1st, 1943. Bumpy Johnson stopped a riot by refusing to let his people destroy themselves. Then he made the most powerful white man in New York answer for the violence his police caused. That's not just power, that's legacy. If this story of how one man stopped a war with intelligence instead of violence moved you, subscribe for more untold stories from Harlem. Drop a like if you think Bumpy Johnson had more real power than the mayor. And comment below. What would you have said to Mayor LaGuardia on that phone call?